In the middle of a snowstorm, 9 months pregnant Margery was writhing on the ground. Her husband had abandoned her an hour ago. The baby was coming, and the nearest village was 10 miles away. She was going to die, both herself and her baby. But at that moment, a shadow emerged from the curtain of snow. A 2-meter-tall Viking with a sword. Margery should have feared him. But in that moment, that Viking was her only hope. And what happened that night in the snowstorm would change both their lives forever. December 1158, northern England. The winter was the harshest in 20 years. Snow had been falling for 3 days without stopping. Roads were impassable, villages were isolated, and people were dying from cold and hunger. On one of these snowy roads, a horse-drawn cart was moving with difficulty. Inside the cart, wrapped in thick furs, sat 23-year-old Margery. Her belly was huge. She was 9 months pregnant. The baby could come at any moment. Driving the cart was her husband, Harold, a 35-year-old merchant, cold-blooded and calculating. Their marriage was one of convenience. Harold needed Margery's father's lands. Margery's family needed Harold's wealth. But there was a problem. Harold didn't believe the baby was his. "Harold," Margery said, her voice trembling from cold and fear. "We must stop. The pains are getting stronger." "We can't stop," Harold said coldly. "We must reach the next village before nightfall." "But the baby, that baby," Harold said, his voice full of venom, "is not mine." Margery's heart froze. "What? Harold, what are you saying?" Harold pulled the cart to a stop, turned to look at his wife. His eyes were ice cold. "I know, Margery. I know you were with another man. This baby is a bastard." "No," Margery cried. "Harold, I swear I've never been with another man." "This baby is yours." "Liar," Harold shouted. "I was away for 4 months on business. When I returned, you were already pregnant. The timing doesn't match." "But it does," Margery said desperately. "The baby was conceived before you left." "The midwife said—" "I don't care what the midwife said," Harold interrupted. "I know the truth. And I won't raise another man's bastard." Margery realized with horror what was about to happen. "Harold!" "What are you going to do?" Harold climbed down from the cart, started unhitching the horse. "I'm leaving," he said simply. "The nearest village is 10 miles north. If you can walk, maybe you'll make it." "Walk?" Margery screamed. "I'm 9 months pregnant. The baby could come at any moment. I'll die out here." Harold mounted the horse, looked at his wife one last time. "Then you'll die," he said coldly. "Better that than returning home with a bastard." "Harold, please don't do this. I'm your wife." But Harold had already turned the horse. Within seconds he disappeared into the snowstorm. Margery sat in the cart, alone, in the middle of a blizzard. The wind howled, snow fell heavily, and the cold was deadly, and then she felt it. A sharp pain in her belly. Contractions. The baby was coming. "No," she whispered. "Not now. Please, God, not now." But God wasn't listening. The pains intensified. Margery climbed down from the cart, her legs barely supporting her, fell to her knees in the snow. "Help!" she screamed into the storm. "Someone help me!" But there was no one. Just snow, wind, and death approaching. Bjorn Ironheart had been walking through this cursed English winter for 2 days. His Viking raiding party had been ambushed. Most were dead, a few scattered. Bjorn had escaped, but was now alone, wounded and lost in enemy territory. He was 32 years old, a veteran warrior, 2 meters tall, muscular body hardened by years of combat. Long blonde hair frozen with ice, thick beard covered in snow. His leather and fur clothing was soaked, but he kept moving. Stopping meant freezing to death. As he walked through the storm, he heard something. A scream, a woman's scream. Bjorn stopped. His warrior instincts activated. It could be a trap. English soldiers might be using a woman as bait, but the scream came again. This time, full of pain and desperation, Bjorn made a decision. He drew his sword and moved toward the sound. Through the snow curtain he saw her, a woman on her knees in the snow, clutching her enormous belly. She was screaming in pain, pregnant, in labor, alone. Bjorn approached cautiously. The woman looked up, saw him, and her eyes widened with terror. "Stay away!" she screamed, trying to crawl backward. "Don't hurt me!" Bjorn stopped, raised his hands to show he meant no harm. But he was still holding his sword, and he looked like exactly what he was, a dangerous Viking warrior. "I won't hurt you," Bjorn said in broken English. He had learned some during raids and trading. "You need help. You're a Viking," Margery gasped between contractions. "Yes," Bjorn said simply. "And you're English. But right now, you're a woman having a baby. And I can help." "How?" Margery cried. "I'm going to die! My baby's going to die!" Bjorn sheathed his sword, approached slowly, knelt in the snow beside her. "Not if I can prevent it," he said. His voice was deep but surprisingly gentle. "I've delivered babies before. Viking women, horses, sheep. Birth is birth." Margery looked into his eyes, blue eyes like ice. But there was something else there. Determination, strength, and kindness. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" "I'm your enemy," Bjorn thought for a moment. Then said, "In my culture we have a saying, the brave protect the helpless. You are helpless. I am here, that is reason enough." Another contraction hit. Margery screamed, doubled over in pain. "We can't stay here," Bjorn said urgently. "You'll freeze. There's a cart?" Margery nodded toward the abandoned cart. Bjorn scooped her up effortlessly, as if she weighed nothing despite her pregnancy, carried her to the cart and laid her in the back among the furs. "Take off wet clothes," Bjorn commanded. "Hypothermia kills faster than childbirth." "But I've seen naked women before," Bjorn said matter-of-factly. "This is survival, not seduction." "Do it." Margery, too weak to argue, obeyed. Bjorn turned his back, giving her privacy as she changed into dry furs. Then he climbed into the cart beside her. "Now," he said, rolling up his sleeves, "let's bring this baby into the world." The next hours were the most intense of both their lives. The snowstorm raged around them, the cart rocking in the wind. Inside, Margery labored while Bjorn, the Viking warrior, became a midwife. "Breathe," Bjorn instructed, his large hands surprisingly gentle as he checked her. "Deep breaths. Your body knows what to do." "It hurts," Margery gasped. "It hurts so much." "Yes," Bjorn said honestly. "Birth is pain, but also power. You're strong." "I can see it." "I'm not strong," Margery sobbed. "My husband abandoned me. He said the baby's not his. He left me to die." Bjorn's jaw tightened. "Your husband is a coward and a fool. This baby is coming, and it will need a mother, so you will not die." "I won't allow it." His certainty gave Margery strength. She grabbed his hand during the next contraction, squeezing so hard her knuckles went white. Bjorn didn't flinch. "Good," he said. "Use the pain. Transform it into strength." Hours passed. Bjorn worked tirelessly, keeping Margery warm, helping her change positions, encouraging her. He had seen birth before in his homeland. Viking women were strong. They often gave birth with only family help. He knew what to do. "The baby's crowning," Bjorn said, his voice excited. "I can see the head. One more big push." "I can't," Margery cried. "I'm too tired." "Yes, you can," Bjorn said firmly. He leaned close, his face inches from hers. "Listen to me, Margery. You are a warrior. This is your battle, and you will win. Now push!" Margery gathered every ounce of strength she had left, screamed and pushed with all her might, and then a new sound filled the cart. A baby's cry. "A boy!" Bjorn announced, his voice full of wonder. He held the tiny newborn carefully, cleaning the baby's face with gentle efficiency. A strong, healthy boy. Margery, exhausted and crying, reached out. Bjorn placed the baby on her chest, the umbilical cord still attached. "He's beautiful," Margery whispered, tears streaming down her face. "He's perfect." Bjorn cut the cord with his knife, tied it off expertly, then wrapped the baby in warm furs. "He is perfect," Bjorn agreed softly. Looking at the mother and child, something shifted in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years, tenderness. Margery looked up at the Viking, this stranger who had saved both their lives. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved us. How can I ever repay you?" Bjorn was quiet for a moment. Outside, the storm was beginning to calm. Inside, warmth and new life. "You don't owe me anything," Bjorn said finally. "But I could stay until you're strong enough, until it's safe." "Yes," Margery said immediately. "Please stay." And so, in that cart in the middle of a snowstorm, the storm passed by morning. Bjorn assessed their situation. They couldn't stay in the cart, too exposed, too cold. But Margery couldn't walk, not yet. The baby needed warmth and safety. "There," Bjorn said, pointing through the trees. Smoke, a house. It was an abandoned hunter's cabin. The door was broken, but the structure was sound. Bjorn carried Margery and the baby inside, then returned for supplies from the cart. He started a fire, found some dried food in the cabin's stores, melted snow for water. Within an hour, the small cabin was warm and relatively comfortable. "You're very skilled," Margery observed, nursing her baby. She was sitting near the fire, wrapped in furs. "Most warriors I've known can only fight." "Vikings aren't just warriors," Bjorn said, stirring a pot of thin soup. "We're farmers, sailors, builders. We survive. That requires many skills." "And what's your name?" Margery asked. "I've been calling you the Viking in my mind." "Bjorn," he said. "Bjorn Ironheart. And you?" "Margery. Margery of... Well, I suppose I'm Margery of nowhere now. My husband abandoned me. I have no home." Bjorn brought her the soup. Their hands touched as he handed her the bowl. Both felt something, a spark, a connection. "You have this home," Bjorn said, "for now. And when you're strong, we'll decide what comes next." Over the following days, a routine developed. Bjorn hunted and gathered firewood. Margery recovered, cared for the baby. In the evenings they talked. "What will you name him?" Bjorn asked one night, watching the baby sleep. "I don't know," Margery said softly. "Harold wanted to name him Edmund after the king. But Harold isn't here. He doesn't deserve that right. In my culture," Bjorn said, "names have power. They shape destiny. What do you want for your son?" "Strength," Margery said immediately. "Courage, kindness, like you." Bjorn looked surprised. "Like me?" "Yes," Margery said, meeting his eyes. "You're the strongest, bravest, kindest man I've ever met. You saved us when you had no reason to. You stayed when you could have left. You're what a real man should be." Bjorn felt his throat tighten. "I'm a Viking, your people's enemy. You're a good man," Margery said firmly. "That matters more than anything else." That night, something shifted between them. They weren't just survivor and rescuer anymore. They were becoming something more. 2 weeks passed. The baby, whom Margery had named Eric, after Bjorn's suggestion, it was a Viking name meaning eternal ruler, was thriving. Margery had recovered her strength. And Bjorn? Bjorn knew he should leave, but he couldn't. "The snow has stopped," Margery said one morning, looking out the window. "The roads will be passable soon." "Yes," Bjorn said. He was sharpening his sword, a task he did when thinking. "You'll leave," Margery said. It wasn't a question. Bjorn stopped sharpening. "I should. My people, they'll think I'm dead. And you should return to your village." "In safety, I can't go back," Margery said quietly. "Harold will be there. He'll claim I abandoned him, that Eric is illegitimate. They'll take my son away. Or worse, then what will you do?" Margery looked at him, really looked at him. This Viking who had shown her more kindness in 2 weeks than her husband had in a year of marriage. "Come with me," she said suddenly. to Scandinavia. To your homeland, Bjorn's eyes widened. You would do that? Leave England? Everything you know. What do I have here? Margery asked, her voice breaking. A husband who abandoned me. A society that will shame me. But with you, Eric could have a father. A real father. And I could have... She trailed off, unable to finish. What? Bjorn asked softly, standing up. What could you have? Margery gathered her courage. Freedom, safety, maybe even love. Bjorn crossed the room in 2 strides. Stood before her this fragile English woman who had survived so much. Margery, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I'm a warrior. I've killed men. I have nothing to offer but a hard life in a harsh land. You have yourself, Margery whispered. That's more than enough. Bjorn cupped her face in his large, calloused hands, looked into her eyes. If you come with me, he said, I swear by Odin and Thor, I will protect you and Eric. I will be the father he deserves. And I will love you every day for the rest of my life. Then I'll come, Margery said, tears in her eyes, because I've already fallen in love with you. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, 2 people from different worlds, finding each other in the most unlikely circumstance. But then it deepened, became passionate. Weeks of tension, gratitude, and growing affection poured into that kiss. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. We'll leave tomorrow, Bjorn said. Head north to the coast. My clan has ships that patrol these waters. We'll find them tomorrow, Margery agreed, smiling through tears. Our new life begins tomorrow. That night they became a family in every sense. Margery, Bjorn, and baby Eric, holding each other by the fire, planning their future. The journey to the coast took 2 weeks. It was hard. Traveling with a newborn in winter was dangerous. But Bjorn was skilled and Margery was determined. They avoided villages and main roads. Bjorn was still a Viking in English territory. If discovered, he'd be killed. Margery was a woman traveling with the Viking. She'd be branded a traitor. But at night in their camps, they were happy. Bjorn taught Margery Norse words. Margery taught Bjorn English songs. Eric grew stronger each day. He looks like you, Bjorn said one night, holding the baby. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. But he has your strength, Margery said, smiling. I see it already. The way he grabs your finger, he'll be a great warrior, Bjorn said proudly. Or a great builder, or scholar, whatever he chooses. In England his choices would be limited, Margery said. As a bastard child. But in Scandinavia? In Scandinavia, what matters is what you do, not who your parents were, Bjorn said. He'll be free to choose his path. Finally they reached the coast. And there, like a gift from the gods, was a Viking longship. That's my clan's ship, Bjorn exclaimed. The Raven Banner! He ran to the shore, waving and shouting in Norse. The ship changed course, heading toward them. When the ship beached, a huge Viking jumped out. Bjorn ran to him and they embraced. Bjorn! The man shouted. We thought you were dead. Nearly was, Bjorn said, grinning. But I had a reason to survive. He gestured to Margery and Eric. This is Margery, and this is Eric, my family. The Viking crew looked surprised, but then pleased. They helped Margery and the baby aboard, treating them with respect. As the ship pushed off from English shores, Margery looked back one last time. Goodbye to her old life. Hello to the new Bjorn, wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Nervous? Terrified, Margery admitted, but also excited. This is really happening. Yes, Bjorn said, kissing her forehead. This is really happening. 3 weeks later, the ship arrived in Norway. Bjorn's homeland. The village was beautiful. Wooden houses with carved decorations, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and deep fjords. The people came out to greet the returning warriors. An older woman, strong and dignified, approached. This was Astrid, Bjorn's mother. My son, she said, embracing him. Then she looked at Margery and Eric. "And who are these?" "Mother," Bjorn said proudly. "This is Margery, my wife. And this is Eric, your grandson." Astrid's eyes widened. Then she smiled broadly. "Welcome," she said to Margery in accented but good English. "Welcome to our family." The village held a feast that night. Margery was overwhelmed by the warmth and acceptance. No one cared that she was English or that Eric was born outside of a Norse marriage. What mattered was that Bjorn had chosen them. "In our culture," Astrid explained to Margery, "family is what you build, not just what you're born into. Bjorn has chosen you. That makes you one of us." A month later, Bjorn and Margery were married in a traditional Viking ceremony. Margery wore a beautiful white dress with Norse embroidery. Bjorn wore his finest tunic with his sword at his side. As they exchanged vows before the clan, Bjorn spoke. "Margery, I found you in a storm. You were dying, alone, abandoned, but you fought. You survived. You're the strongest person I know. I vow to protect you, honor you, and love you every day for the rest of my life. You saved me as much as I saved you. Together we're complete," Margery responded, tears in her eyes. "Bjorn, you appeared when I needed a hero most. You gave me and my son life, hope, and love. You showed me what a real man is, strong but gentle, fierce but kind. I vow to stand by your side, to build our family, and to love you forever." They kissed, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Years passed. Margery adapted to Viking life faster than anyone expected. She learned the language, the customs, the skills. She became known as a skilled healer, using knowledge from both English and Norse traditions. Eric grew into a strong, healthy boy. By age 5, he was learning to fight with wooden swords, to fish, to sail. Bjorn was a devoted father, patient and loving, but also teaching discipline and courage. And then Margery became pregnant again, this time with twins, a boy and a girl. "Two!" Bjorn exclaimed when the midwife told them. "Odin has blessed us." The birth was easier than Eric's. Margery was in her own home, surrounded by skilled midwives and Bjorn. The boy they named Leif, the girl Freya. Now they had 3 children, a real family. One day, years later, Eric asked a question. "Father, why don't I look exactly like you and Leif?" Bjorn and Margery exchanged glances. They had known this day would come. Bjorn knelt to his son's level. "Eric, let me tell you a story. The night you were born, there was the worst snowstorm anyone had ever seen. Your mother was alone, dying. I found her by chance. I helped bring you into this world. And from that moment you became my son. Not because of blood, but because of choice. I chose to be your father, and I have never regretted that choice for 1 second. Eric thought about this, then said, "So you're not my birth father?" "No," Bjorn said honestly. "But I'm your real father. Because being a father isn't about making a baby. It's about raising a child, teaching them, loving them. And I love you as much as I love Leif and Freya. You're all my children." Eric hugged Bjorn tightly. "You're the best father anyone could have." Margery, watching from the doorway, wiped tears from her eyes. When Eric was 15, a ship arrived from England. A merchant ship, and on it a familiar face. Harold, Margery's former husband. He had aged badly, fat, greying, bitter-looking. When he saw Margery, he sneered. "So this is where you've been," he said. "Living with Vikings like a whore." Bjorn's hand went to his sword, but Margery stopped him. "What do you want, Harold?" she asked coldly. "I want to see the boy," Harold said. "My son." "I have rights." "You have no rights," Margery interrupted. "You abandoned us in a snowstorm. You left us to die. Bjorn saved us. Bjorn raised Eric. Bjorn is his father. But I'm his blood. Blood means nothing," Margery said firmly. "Love means everything, and you never loved either of us. Leave, Harold. You're not welcome here." Harold looked at Eric, now a tall, strong young man training with a sword. "That should have been my son," Harold said bitterly. "No," Margery said. "He's exactly who he should be. Bjorn's son, my son. And he's better than you could ever be." Harold left and Margery never saw him again. That night, Margery and Bjorn sat by the fire watching their 3 children play. "Do you ever regret it?" Bjorn asked. "Leaving England." "Your old life?" Margery laughed. "Regret? That life was death. This is life. You are children, our home. This is everything I ever wanted but didn't know I could have." Bjorn pulled her close. "I was lost when I found you. A warrior with no purpose. But that night in the storm, I found my purpose. You, Eric, our family. We saved each other," Margery whispered. "Yes," Bjorn agreed. "We did." Years later, when Margery and Bjorn were old, surrounded by grandchildren, they would tell the story of that snowstorm night. "Your grandfather," Margery would say, "appeared out of the snow like a giant. I thought I was hallucinating. But he was real. And he was the answer to a prayer I didn't know I'd said." "Your grandmother," Bjorn would add, "was the bravest woman I ever met. She gave birth in a blizzard. She left everything she knew. She built a new life from nothing. She's the strongest person I've ever known." Eric, now a father himself, would smile. "And I'm the luckiest son. Because I have the best father, not by blood but by choice." The 3 of them, Margery, Bjorn, and Eric, remained close all their lives. A family forged not by law or tradition, but by survival, choice, and love. This story shows us that family isn't defined by blood alone. Bjorn could have walked past that suffering woman. He could have left once the baby was born. But he stayed. He chose, and Margery could have feared him, rejected him, clung to her old life. But she chose courage. She chose a new path. Sometimes our darkest moments lead to our greatest blessings. That snowstorm was the worst night of Margery's life. But it was also the night she met the man who would become her true partner, her children's real father, and the love of her life. Real fathers aren't always the ones who create children. Real fathers are the ones who choose to stay, to love, to raise, to teach. Bjorn chose to be Eric's father, and that choice mattered more than any blood connection ever could. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Share in the comments which moment moved you the most, and share this powerful story with anyone who needs to be reminded that heroes come in unexpected forms and families are built by choice and love. True strength isn't just fighting enemies. It's choosing to protect the helpless. Bjorn and Margery's story reminds us that the greatest battles are fought with love, not swords.